Welcome to the 39th edition of Women's Wrestling Weekly, the show. Kyle Klingman here, Scott Beck, and quick mailbag. We were asked why we have not talked about real American freestyle and some of the potential matchups. It is worth mentioning Kennedy Blades is going to be on the card, and Sarah Hildebrandt making, I guess you'd say, a comeback. She is coaching right now with USA Wrestling, but she's going to be wrestling at approximately 120 pounds. So not that we are ignoring it, but we don't know much about it. And once it gets closer, we'll talk about it. But exciting about the prospects of two of our best stars competing on Real American Freestyle in late August.
Yeah, yeah. Kenny Blades is going to be one of the flag bearers of that league, I believe. Izzy Martinez, who's her coach, was one of the founders. I think it's exciting. I think it's just another potential avenue for athletes to compete slash earn some dough, and that'll be good. We'll talk about that, I guess, as we get closer. You and I'll do a little more research, and along the lines, another a person that was involved. R.I.P. Hulk Hogan, rest in peace. He was going to be a supporter of that league and try to help out. I'm sure that's a loss, but he was a. I know it's professional wrestling, but the man was a good ambassador for a different element of the sport of wrestling, and was trying to be supportive in this league. So one of the great ones, R.I.P. And I would also add. With these leagues and things that we've done, it's a very challenging endeavor, and people try, and hopefully this one will make it and get the support. We got to figure out a way for athletes to have avenues to make some other money, when they're done. And then finally, I'm pretty sure Sarah will be in very good form. She's coaching, she's in the room. Can't imagine she's not scrapping, and knowing her personality, I don't think she's going to do something if she's not ready to wrestle well and win.
They get the two right U.S. stars because they are dynamic. They make you stop what you're doing and make you want to watch. They're different in how they execute it. With Kennedy Blades, it's going to be throws and style, and you don't know what she's going to hit, and just some of the beautiful things she does on the mat. With Sarah, it's more calculated. You're going to be able to see that leg lace potentially. So just a lot of different things, but I like both.
Kennedy Blades is the perfect person if you're trying to start like a league and get excitement. I mean, Blades is as exciting as it gets in terms of her style with the big throws and the just very athletic moves. So yeah, it'll be great to have Kennedy Blades. And back to the mailbag. Please keep the feedback coming. We actually really do care about the show and want it to be better. And even if things are critical, we can handle it. We just want it, to make the product as good as we can. Along those lines, we have not forgotten about. We will. One of the people we wanted to talk to about the Fargo and how they set up with the timing of the cadets and juniors is actually overseas. So we're going to follow up on that, and we are going to do a follow up on the just more information gathering on the pin system. So keep them coming, please. Thank you.
Tarleton State sounds like all systems are go for them to add, just not this season. I was hoping at some level it would happen, but the later it got, Scott, it felt like the timing wasn't right. It felt like they were going to push it. Jason Mormon wasn't going to have a chance to really recruit and get that solid base. It's probably going to be 26, 27. I think that's the right move. All systems go for that, and I think they can make a push at a championship.
Yeah, I think it's much better. I mean, it's one thing if you have the lead time, but to just rush it, you're not going to get some of the athletes that you might have wanted. He'll know what the landscape is for recruiting. He'll have time to get the people he wants, get some I don't know what's going to happen with some of the potential transfers. If they're just going to redshirt that you're not. But I think Jason Mormon with the team, up and running when they're ready for that will be more effective. So, it's going to be exciting. It's a fertile ground to gather athletes from Texas. Wrestling's great, and Oklahoma's getting a lot better. I mean, that whole area is, Colorado. I mean, he will have a good program pretty quickly.
And if there's a potential that Tarleton State could ever get into the Big 12, regardless of what that means, just perception is reality. I think if you can say we have another Power Four school in the mix along with Iowa, Lehigh's not necessarily a Power Four school in name, but they're Power Four wrestling name for sure.
Yeah.
And so now you have some schools that has just some star power. And if you can say we are a Big 12 program, it doesn't matter what that means. I think that perception really is reality, and that's going to help Jason Mormon regardless. But having a Division I program for the 27 season, this is what we need, and we have the right coach in the right position for that job.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm excited to see that and how it manifests itself.
You talked about the Campbellsville pipeline. Kasey Krucheck is another Lee Miracle product. She's going to be at Division III Wilkes. So now we have this Campbellsville pipeline that Lee Miracle's creating. It seems like good coaches are coming out of that school.
Yeah, and Wilkes has a long and storied wrestling history. They were like Division III, but Coach Don Reese coached there for a long time, and it was one of these kind of schools that if you didn't really know wrestling or know the area, you might have never heard of it.
Arcadia, right outside of Philadelphia, is adding a program. It's going to be Michael Childs as the head coach. And this is cool. We got information on this. They want to add a woman to the coaching staff who would ideally be there to coach and train and be part of a upstart RTC program. So exciting opportunity there. If anyone wants to look into that, it might be a good fit, but anyone that's in the PA area, it seems like that would be a good opportunity to be part of that. But it really does seem like Division III is driving the participation right now. I know we've talked about that potential split between Division III and then Division I and Division II. But again, I'm glad for the time being that we get to see them all together as this sport continues to grow at the college level. This is what we live for, Scott. We have the U17 World Championships and the Poland Open U17 Worlds. I think we have a good team. We already have some returning medalists. You have returning world champions Morgan Turner and Taina Fernandez. Jacqueline Bazakis has a medal. Epinesa Ellison is good. Violet Lazier, we know what she can do. She's tough on top. You have Ella Palillo, among others, but it's hard to know what's going to happen here because this is our first chance to see a lot of these girls, the international girls at this level. So I think for us, this is a data point. We get to watch, we get to observe and see how good this team and where these potential stars can go in the future.
I'm so crazy. I actually looked through the other countries' entry list to see if any of the names really hit me. I didn't like look up the names in UWW, but we're just not really familiar with these names because I haven't hit the radar yet. But Japan's, got a full team, so they'll obviously be tough. We're going to be tough. This is a really good team. I mean, you have, the names you mentioned. You have a bunch of medalists already, so you're going to expect Bazakis, Turner, Fernandez. And then Espinel Ellison, I think is the first U17 world, but she's really good. I'm expected to do well. And, you have Ella, if I pronounce it wrong, I'm sorry, Paolillo at 73 was very tough. She's from Wantagh, New York, which is next to the town I grew up. I grew up in Belmore. Wantagh is the next town. That's where Coach Tommy Ryan of Ohio State, who wrestled with the University of Iowa, is from Wantagh as well. But I'm going to make a statement here, and I'm potentially going to look like a moron. I think this team can win the Cadet U17 Worlds. This
Really?
ladies team. Yeah, I really do. Again, I don't know what Japan's team is like, but this is a really solid team. And I've watched almost all these ladies wrestle. They're all tough. They have accolades, and this is going to be a damn good team.
And we also have Emma Bacon, who's coming off a junior national championship. I know she's hungry to get to that age level world championship and see where she is. So just across the board, a lot that we can feel good about for the United States. And it's just one of those things where making an age level world team is a special thing to do. And this is just going to lead into a lot more things for them to come.
Yeah, it's exceptionally difficult to do. It really is. And when these ladies are all very good, they're all experienced. And what I'm noticing is there's more like as we're going on. I mean, our younger teams are really experienced now, and and accoladed. Now that we have the U15 World, the U15 Pan Am, I mean, these ladies are ready. They've hit the mat. I mean, I'm not saying I can make the statement I did that we're going to win. I don't know. Maybe Japan mauls us. I doubt it. I don't see this team. Maybe they don't win, but I cannot see this team not contending for a title and being up there in points. I mean, I think it's a really solid team. It's great. Coach Steiner will be there with them to encourage them. And, I think he's also there. He doesn't always go to the U17s. I think he's there because this is a pretty special team.
His famous saying is, maybe our next Olympic champion is someone we've never heard of. And we don't know if there's a 12-year-old, 11-year-old right now that is building and training that we've never heard of that is
They're
going to
lurking out there. Yeah, they are.
and
Definitely. I could not agree more.
yeah, and I love that statement because we may not know who that is, and we don't know their path. Just like we talked about with Camilla Hathaway, she starts late, starts as an 8-year-old, and now she's doing great things at 13. Maybe there's another Camilla Hathaway that's in the works right now, and we don't know that path, and I think that's
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah. Or there's another one that we do know, Taina Fernandez, who's just going to start wrecking people pretty soon, you know?
And she's coming off a age level world championship last year. And as we talk about Taina Fernandez, which we have often, when you look back at her world championship from last year, the better the competition, the better she is. And I think that's what we're going to see at this world championship is you're going to see the best version of Taina Fernandez because she rises to the occasion.
Yeah. And I'm, I mean, based on what she's done, I hope she's got somebody tough that can give her at least a match to, keep challenging her because she's pretty much going to rip through this tournament for the most part, barring some weird stuff. And I'm including Japan. She's done well against Japan. She's very strong and physical, and they don't like that, especially the younger ones. So we'll see. I'm expecting very good things from this team. I just really am. I just look at the lineup up and down. It's really good.
And if you remember last year, she absolutely throttled Japan in the finals. And
Right.
I would expect the same thing. She's only gotten better since last year. She's wrestled some tough competition at those college opens, so she's sharpened her sword. So I think we can expect great things out of her. Let's go back to Morgan Turner. This is her opportunity. She got bronze last year and a gold medal 2 years ago. This is her chance to come back and show where she is after making her third in a row.
I don't think she was happy last time, and she's going to have some tough competition at those lighter weights from Japan. But I think she's going to be right there contending for a title for sure.
Last week, we were so excited about the Hungarian Open. We have more senior level competition coming up, full U.S. women's roster at the Poland Open. Up and down the lineup, Kendra Ryan's on the national team, Lexi Janiak, Lara Boyd is a two-time age level world medalist, Jen Page, senior world medalist, Solon Piercy has been on the national team, Kaylin Albrecht is on there, Joey Lewandowski. So another chance for us to look at high-level senior international competition.
This is not a team to write off. I mean, these ladies are all very experienced, very good, a bunch of world medalists, and I think they're going to do very well. This tournament will be a slight step down from last week's competition as everybody's kind of jockeying for those seeds for most of the world team members. And just Kyle, I'm going to go off on a little tangent here. One thing that is an interesting topic. I mean, it happened at the last week's ranking series where you have, and there were a number of instances. USA had one where Helen wrestled Amanda Martinez in the first match. I don't love the concept. I mean, there's two ways of looking at it. I'll give both sides of it, but I don't love it in general. That we send athletes all the way overseas, and this isn't the furthest trip in the planet, but it's a lot further trip from USA than it is from Moldova to go there, right? Hungary, and I don't love that countries hit each other early. I know some countries want their athletes to hit because they use it as a suit of trials to hold off spending the money, but I think it's a lot of money spent to send people to have somebody lose to their own person that they wrestle all the time in the room. I think there should be some form of separation, at least on the other side of the bracket. And if you have three, maybe you put them on the other half of that half bracket, in the other quarter bracket. But I don't love that. I don't think the athletes love it. And it doesn't make sense to me. And I don't know who would complain. And maybe you could have a situation for your country, you could opt out of that. Say, no, if a guy's hit first, we want them to hit. Or, to me, it doesn't matter if you hit each other really, because you can see who does better in the tournament. Either they'll hit in the finals if they're opposite, or somebody will beat a common opponent and do better. But I don't think these tournaments should be meant as trials. And if you want to do it that way, maybe you can opt out of it. But there should be something you opt into where you accept separation. I'm not talking about seeding. I'm talking about separation. You just throw them on other sides of the bracket. I really don't understand why we do that. If somebody, please, we always get feedback. Somebody explain to me what I'm missing and why we shouldn't do that. And I'd love to hear it.
I think at minimum, you shouldn't have two wrestlers from the same country meet up in the first round because you're trying to go to international competitions to get
Yeah.
international competition. And so if you're meeting up in the first round, and just as the example, Amanda Martinez and Helen Maroulis meet in the first round after meeting in Final X. So they have three matches in a row against each other. I just don't think that's the right thing to do because even if you go 0-1, at least you know it's against someone from another country.
Somebody new, different feel. Exactly. It's not about, I'm not talking about this saying, oh, well, maybe the U.S. has the two best wrestlers and they should meet in the finals. This is not about who's going to win the tournament or advance. The spirit of what my thought process is is yours, getting matches against a different feel. And again, these trips are expensive, and a lot of these federations don't have a lot of money. U.S. Federation is doing very well at the moment, but still, the money could be better spent getting the athlete more matches. I just don't love that. And they would never do this, but the other concept is, I don't know if athletes would even go for it, but you do something. If you lose in the first round, you have some kind of mini tournament, a separate mini tournament where people just that want to opt in get a couple more matches. But at that level, I don't know if people that just lost and got pissed are going to want, practice matches. But I think there should be some better separation there.
Better separation. And while we're on the topic, you alluded to it earlier about just funding and how you get overseas. Let's just talk about how women's freestyle wrestlers make a living. Was able to dive into that with an article getting 7 women on the record about how they're able to do it. It is not an easy path. And I think the one thing that gets overlooked is when we go and watch competitions, and as a fan, you see that individual on the mat, you just assume they're taken care of, that they're wrestling, this is their full-time job, and that is so far from the truth of what it is. And probably the number one thing I came away with in being part of that was health insurance. And being 26 years old, you might have to get off your parents' health insurance. Kendra Ryan's 22, she's still on her parents'. So there's all these things when you see an athlete on the mat competing that are behind the scenes that we have no idea about. And Amanda Martinez articulated that she's glad that she made the national team because now she can have things looked at because now she's on the national team health insurance. So to get to this level of senior level competition, to make a living, to be able to make it, it's not easy, Scott.
It's not easy. I happen to know a lot about this, being a father and daughter that's, doing this. It's not easy at all. Being a world-class athlete is not easy. And the funding piece is especially hard. Some of these countries where, like, let's say that have a much cheaper cost of living, and even like Ukraine before the war, I know about some of the numbers there, or like maybe Mongolia or something. You win a world medal or you win a ranking series, the amount you get paid is life-changing. So that amount of money can actually sustain. You can make enough, or you win, ranking series tournaments. You get bonuses for being UWW. You get appearance fees. They can make real money relative to the cost of living. In the United States, that money is pretty much de minimis. And you wrote a great article on it, and that everybody should read. And it was, the women were exceptionally forthcoming and brutally honest. And if you read it, it's really kind of sad how hard it is. I mean, the little amount that they get paid as assistant coaches and the hours they put in. Some of the bigger names, or the medium names will make money doing camps, but it's really hard to train full time. It's not about that they can't get jobs. All these ladies are, competitive people, smart. They could all get jobs. It's about a job that accommodates around your training and travel schedule. And I would just say, broadly speaking, the insurance piece I'm going to have to deal with. Mikhail's on my insurance. She's not going to be when she turns 26. So, and this year she's not on the national team for the first time, in a while. But I'm going to have to figure that out. And then the big thing, though, is the women were starting to finally get more opportunities around the COVID. Before that, the men's RTCs were picking up women. There was kind of a push to pay them. They were getting paid something. They were getting paid from the club. They were getting paid from an RTC. Then they were doing those, after COVID, those cards where they were getting paid a fair amount. Now it's kind of fallen apart with NIL. So a lot of the RTCs, they've kind of pulling a lot of the money out of the universities as opposed to going to RTCs. A lot of that money is going to pay athletes to compete on the Division I team, and that's a men's situation. There's less excess money, so a lot of the RTCs have dropped the women. For example, Jen Page was on the Penn State RTC. I don't know if she's getting paid now. Jakara was on the Oklahoma State RTC. I don't think that situation's going on right now. Macy Kilty was on North Carolina. Then, that's not going on. So I'm not saying any of these ladies don't have other avenues hooked up, but the easy one to latch onto an RTC and get a couple grand a month, maybe a grand or two, and some of the better ones, the top names, more than that, that's kind of disappeared. You can sit and say, well, they don't draw the numbers. I would argue, I'm not sure at these big universities, all these universities, the men's are self-funding, but the money is now going specifically. I mean, really, what's really happening at the bigger picture with NIL, and I know Trump just came out with something where they're trying to regulate it, because really what's happening is the only sports that are really getting the staggering, other than the top programs like in Iowa or Penn State, Oklahoma State, the money's going to football and basketball, and other sports are suffering. And then if that's suffering on the men's side, I promise you it trickles down. And so the women have pretty much been abandoned. And, the men at these other sports, we're going to be fighting. Wrestling's going to be fighting. Sports like wrestling, other major non-revenue sports in general, like non-massive revenue sports, are going to struggle now. And this is not what I think was planned, to destroy college athletics, except for football and basketball, where a bunch of guys get $7-8 million a year. There's some great, some quarterback, and then that's where all the money's going. And then the donors are just getting bled to get more and more money. So, it is the Wild West. And at some point, if this is the way it's going to become at the, power NCAA sports, football and basketball, just stop doing it in college. It's called like a minor league system and pay them. Don't even make them pretend to go to class, because for the most part, they probably don't go anyway. The big name football, and basketball athletes. So it's a joke. It's not education. They stay for less than the full term. Most don't graduate. This is all about money and being a minor league for the pro sports. So that's my rant.
Let's just dive into just making a living. A few of the things that were startling to me when you go through it is Kendra Ryan. She goes to Final X, makes the national team. She's working as a waiter the next day.
And not one person she's serving probably has any idea what she just went through.
Not at all.
But she is.
Yeah. Amanda Martinez is coaching during the day, training, and then she takes a DoorDash shift when she needs to make extra money, and she lives with her parents. So there's just so much that's reliant on benevolence at this point that it's staggering.
And I would say the benevolence is very narrow, but the donors are, like Andy Barth. What Andy Barth does, he should be sainted. He supports so many athletes, as the Marturis did, but Sunkiss is closed now, right? So Kim and Art did a tremendous job, and for whatever reasons, that's a separate issue or not issue. They pulled out, and they were very supportive. And, Mikhail's a Sunkiss athlete, was a Sunkiss athlete, very supportive. And Andy Barth picked up a lot of people. And he funds a bunch of trips domestically to train, international trips. This is exceptionally generous. Thank God we have, people like Andy Barth doing that, and the Barrys do a lot, in New York, and the New York RTC, Kira and Dave Barry. But the point is, if you don't have these, I believe in the story, the salary of the assistant coach was in the story. Is that correct, Kyle?
Correct. I think it was a $5,000 stipend.
Something like, as an assistant coach, $5,000.
$5,000 stipend at North Central. For the season.
At North Central. Yeah. Think about that. $5,000. Do you know how much work Amanda Martinez is doing for that $5,000? She's doing running the practice or in the practice and doing one-on-ones with multiple athletes per day, almost every day, day after day. She's got to get her own training. And do you know how there's for $5,000 as an assistant coach? I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. If I had to guess, I would probably say that Cody Sanderson makes slightly higher as an assistant coach at Penn State. Slightly. I don't know if the multiple is 100 or 10. It's probably 50 times. No, it's probably 100. I don't know, 250 times. Is Cody Sanderson 50 times better than Amanda Martinez? Does he work 50 times harder? That's just not right.
I think you've talked about how when you do have someone that has funded you and is backing you, there are also expectations from the funder about how you thank them and be part of their lives. So if you can speak to that.
If some funder, flies you to a tournament or comes to see you, and they're funding your life and give you money, I don't want to use because they own you, because they don't own you, and then nobody's trying to own anybody, and I'm not implying anything like that. But you do feel obliged to give them time to have dinner with them. You may want to have dinner with your parents, you may want to have dinner with your friends, but you can't ignore them. I mean, and nor should they be ignored. But athletes are kind of forced, and I'm going to use this word, sell their souls. I'm not implying anything untoward, okay? But I'm just saying you have to be willing to be available, like, because there aren't that many people that will help you. So you find one, you have to nurture that relationship, and everything in life has a cost, and somebody's funding you, whether it's paying for trips, giving you money to help train. They're going to expect something in return. It could just be maybe, giving their kid lessons. I don't know. There could be different things, but nothing's free. Nothing is free in life. And I also think, and it's also like people don't realize what it costs to be the athlete, because it's not just where you're going to live and sleep. At this level, you need a good strength. Forgetting hopefully you could get hooked up in some situation at a club where you'll get the wrestling aspect of it kind of for free, whether you're part of team practices, a coach likes to give you one-on-ones in an RTC. When they were paying you, it was even more. That even was easier. It was more assumed they were going to work with you. But then you have the strength training coach, you have a nutritionist, you may have a mindset coach. Then you have to do a lot of recovery. You need to sauna, cold plunge, heat. All these therapies. Your body gets so beaten up that you need to do this stuff. It's necessary. And then I'm not even talking about, addition to insurance. Doesn't, even if you have insurance, there's a lot of things that aren't covered. A lot of things I'm talking about are not part of health insurance. Or even if you have the USA Wrestling health insurance, I don't think that those are necessarily the best doctors that you get. And if you want a certain doctor for a certain procedure who's known to be the best, and it's your career and your life, you're going to go get that, and that's expensive. So it's a brutal existence. People have no clue, unless you do it, how just hard it is. It's expensive. It's hard. It goes deep mentally. You better love this stuff.
One of the key people in the article was Kayla Miracle, who's a two-time world silver medalist, two-time Olympian. For her to go on the record and say, if you have the math equation and she's a math teacher on how to make it, then would you let me know? I think she's a powerful voice in this because she's one of the top level women in the country. If she's saying I'm struggling, then you know that most of the others are struggling as well.
Yeah, well, what she's certainly not doing is riding the coattails of having won 2 senior world medals. I mean, she's working her soul off. She teaches full time and coaches. Now she loves it. I'm speaking for her. I'm going to say she loves the coaching and is very into it and very good at it. But especially her situation, I don't know what it's like if she took a coaching job as a big name. Maybe Kayla Miracle, if a program was started, could get a very good salary somewhere. Either at a big name school like a SEM or at like a big college. I don't know, but she's at Valiant Prep, and that is a resource scrambling school, meaning they have some resources, they raise money, they're good at it, they have donors, but they're just whatever they raise is going back into the program. It's not like this wealthy, you know, uh, um, endowed program, right? So they can't pay a crazy amount of money. So I don't know what she makes there, but it's probably fair, but it's way less than somebody like Kayla Miracles would make. But she knows the situation, and they're doing it to help these kids and start this program. But yeah, I mean, she knows it better than anybody, and she's a serious person that works very hard, and she's probably, I've seen her in action. I'm sure she's a phenomenal coach. I've seen her coach, I'm sure, and I can see the performance of the ladies, which are coached by, Larkin and Cejudo as well. But um, it's hard. Yeah. I mean, she may have other opportunities down the road if she wanted to, but it's not like people are throwing money at even the big names. Um, it's just not a money sport. You don't do the sport for the money, but but the men have a lot easier time. It's definitely not equal. And by the way, since I mentioned Valiant, I just did want to give a shout out to Angel Cejudo's son, Pablito, Angel Cejudo Jr., who won a Fargo title, U16 Fargo title. So it was good to see. I was happy for Angel. And Valiant also at Reagan Mathers was a champ at 16-year girls. So the club had a good tournament.
WCAP is a path for women's freestyle wrestlers, which Abby Nettie went into. She said she's taken care of at the level of a teacher, if not a little bit better. However, she said that you are at their beck and call. There's expectations, like you talked about with the donors. There are expectations of what you have to do. You can't just say, I'm going to go on a weekend getaway and go to the Bahamas. You are part of the military. You are part of the U.S. government. But she said she wonders why more don't look into that. You have to be at a certain level. It's not just going to be for number 10 on the ladder. You have to perform at some type of a level, but that might be an option that seems like it's compelling if people wanted to explore it. And Bruce is doing
Yeah,
a
I
great
mean,
job.
yeah, Bruce does a great job. They've always done a good job there. They have, and Bruce does a very good job. Um, they own you. Just like if you signed up as an enlisted person, they own you. So they dictate, where you can be, what you have to wear when you travel, which ranking tournament you can go. You don't like look at the schedule and set your schedule. They tell you what you're doing. They tell you hey, we need you here to recruit. Um, it could, I don't know if it's just athletes they're recruiting or just regular recruitment, but they're owned. But I'm a fan of the U.S. military. I am, and I think it's important that we have a strong military, and I'm very patriotic towards the military. And the worst thing to do than compete or enlist in the military. So I think it's a great option, actually. You give up things just like everything is a cost, but they are taken care of. They have their health insurance piece. They get paid fairly well. Um, and they have pensions and things. So I think it's a very good avenue. And I've talked to a bunch of men and women in WCAP, and most of them like it. I mean, they could bitch about certain things that they don't like about it, but I could tell you when I was a bond trader at Goldman Sachs, there were things I didn't like about the job. Every job has pros and cons, and it's not called fun; it's called work. So it is work, and you report to them. But I think it's a good avenue. I'm very supportive of those programs.
As we talk this through and thinking about solutions, just go back to the Kendra Ryan, Amanda Martinez piece, where if you were to say, we're going to give you a $10,000 stipend for the year, how life-changing that would be for those women for the rest of the year. It would be, and you think it's not that much, but for 10 women to get $10,000. So if you were able to have some sort of a system where you had an endowment where you're able to portion off $10,000 for, say, 25 women, that would be life-changing for them.
Yeah, and I've talked to Coach Steiner about this a little bit, where they've talked about what can we do to be better to keep women in the sport. Yeah, you do something effective. You just raise the salaries on national team like significantly and make it a real living wage. Where okay, instead of the number one, what's the number one get 1,200 right now?
I think it's 1,000.
Okay, 1,000. Number two gets 7, I think. Well, make number one 3,000 a month, right? I mean, that's way more even than you're talking. It's an extra 24K or 2,500. Make the number two 1,500. Like, work to endow raise money with a program to endow the salaries of the national team members. And that where okay. And listen, you have years somebody is good, they don't make national team, they're hurt, they have a bad tournament, they don't do it. Then that year it's going to be more of a scramble. But at least if your goal is really to be a world Olympic medalist, for the most part, you should either be on the national team or competing for it every year, right? And so at least when you make that, it's a somewhat living wage, or you have to scramble a little less. That to me, and I've talked to Terry about that, and that was it. Really, is more his idea. I don't know if he heard it from somebody else, but that should be something. That would be a major either some really wealthy person, endows it, gives a clump of money that'll spin off enough dividends and interest a year to endow that program to pay kind of reasonable living wage salaries, or they do a campaign and raise that money and segregate it. Because if you think about it, you know, I don't know if Amanda Martinez should be driving DoorDash after practicing and coaching all day. Like, really? That's very tough,
It's
very difficult.
it's tough, and then you're also seeing why you're probably seeing a higher proportion of college-aged women at the U.S. Open because you're able to get the support of your university at some level, whether they pay for the entrance fee or some of the travel. So it's once you graduate college when it's that, all right, what am I going to do now? How am I going to make this? How am I going to make a living doing this if I don't get on the national team and I'm number five, but I know I'm good enough to get there? But how do you keep going
And,
without something supplementing that?
yeah, and I can tell you from personal conversations, I have with my daughter because I subsidize her significantly, and it's like she's not thrilled about me subsidizing her. She wants to make her own money. She doesn't, but it's like at what cost? Then you have to give up your dream because or not really have a chance to do it because you can't do a regular job. Like she's ambitious and she's a hustler and she's smart as hell. And she wants to make her own money. It sucks that I gotta help her in her mind. But the cost would be getting her own job and then not being able to do it. So it's really not like it's not like you just have like a bunch of parasites saying, I don't want to work. I just want to keep training people to pay for it. That's not what it is. It's just you really cannot do both effectively. You cannot. They're not compatible. To work a regular full-time job and to train to try to make World Olympic team.
And to use John Smith as an example, his best year when he won his six in a row was 1991. His worst year was the following year at the Olympics, 1992,
He
because of
lost the match.
he lost a match in
Cuba.
the Olympic trials and the Olympic Games, lost to John Fisher
Fisher, yeah.
and to
And then to
Lazaro
Cuba.
Reynoso. But part of that was because he was coaching. Oklahoma State was going through a transition. He was in his rookie season, so he's trying to coach and be an athlete, and it just doesn't work. You have to focus fully on what your task is, and that's to be a great women's wrestler.
Yes. The idea of coaching and competing is very difficult. It just is.
Yeah, especially if you're the head coach, and that.
Well, yeah, the head coach is just insane. But listen, don't kid yourself that these assistant coaches aren't working their tail off because they are. We've talked to them. I asked all these coaches what are your athletes getting turned into individuals a week? Who's giving them? These assistant coaches are on the mat a ton, and that wears you down. Even if you're just mentally, physically, it's just hard. And wrestling is a selfish sport. To be the best you can, it's got to be about you. It's really difficult.
To go into that, I'm going to steal something that Tom Brands talked about, and he related this to the Navy SEALs. And I looked this up. Right now, there are approximately 2,500 active Navy SEALs. And so we look at Navy SEALs as this standard bearer of toughness and how hard it is to be a Navy SEAL, which it is. As we talked about the military, it's incredible to have that designation. If we're saying that wrestling is the toughest sport there is, since 1896, including the Olympic Games and the World Championships, men's, women's, and Greco, there are less than 100 men and women who have won a World Championship or an Olympic Games in wrestling. And that includes 1904 when the United States was the only country there. There's less than 100. I think it's probably close to 80. And so when you have that designation and you can walk and you can say, I'm a world or Olympic champion, that is such rarefied air. And I'm talking the United States, I'm not talking other countries. That's such rarefied air to be able to get that. And that's what we're talking about here. It's fueling that dream. And so we're looking at that right now and using Amanda Martinez again. The path to get there is so insanely hard that it's harder than becoming a Navy SEAL to win that world championship and everything that goes into it. And then you're adding that layer on top of it of not having funding. You can't focus fully on it. The path there is nearly impossible.
Oh, that's why there's only 80.
Yeah, 80, and that that's back
Whatever
to
the number is.
yeah, and that's back
Yeah,
to
it's pretty close to impossible. Then you look at the athletes that've done it multiple times. This is what, like, the people truly appreciate, I think they do, but do they really understand that, Helen Maroulis winning 3 Olympic medals, 3 world titles, like how insane that is? So it's insane.
Let's end with this. Amit Elor, who has won 3 world and Olympic gold medals. She had a roast of herself on social media. She had a little video and it said, "They said they're surprised I don't drink," which is weird. Everyone knows I don't take shots. And then the hashtag throws for life judo girl. We've talked about it. She has the most punishing style in the world. She's great from the underhook, from that short offense, does the go behinds, but does she take shots? She's poking fun at herself. And we went back and found maybe her last shot she took. It was against Mallory Velting, that Pan Am Olympic trials qualifier. She took a shot. She scored out of bounds. It wasn't an actual takedown, but she scored a step out. So we'll show it here. But I like that Amit Elor has a sense of humor about
I
this.
thought I thought it was absolutely hilarious, and I pride myself on being relatively intelligent and witty, and I had to pause and think about it for a second. Then when I got it, I just had a big smile on my face. Kudos to you, Amit. Thank you. I think it's hilarious, and you don't take many, that's for sure. But clearly, you don't need to.